Traeger Hall, which is where they live, there's a bell tower, and the bell tolled, and it was right before her aunt and uncle were murdered, and nobody knows what happened. Waverly came on the scene. She had been in town, and now she is sitting vigil like they did in the old-fashioned days, where you sit round the clock by the body of the deceased loved one, just to make sure they're actually dead.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day podcast. My name is Ruth Douthit, and I'm an award-winning best-selling author of books in multiple genres. Right now, I have a Christmas novella coming out December 2nd, so head over to Amazon to pre-order Murder at Christmas Tree Village. It's a cozy mystery murder about these lovely ladies who are the Christmas Tree Society members, and they love their Christmas tree decorating contest that they hold every year, except this year, a dead body was found in the midst of all the Christmas trees in town square. Oh no! So in order for the Christmas tree contest to continue, they must solve this crime. But the local sheriff's detective says, no, I must solve this crime. You biddies just head on over and have some tea and biscuits. But they are insisting, saying, no, we will solve this crime. Will they get it done before the killer strikes again? You'll have to go order Murder at Christmas Tree Village, which releases December 2nd, in order to find out. And if you like today's episode, please head over to YouTube and subscribe. Follow me on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Okay, let's get started. Jaime Jo Wright is a multi-award-winning and best-selling author, too, of Gothic mysteries. And today we're going to talk about her latest release, The Bell Tolls at Traeger Hall. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to Jaime Jo talk about her new book. Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day. I'm super excited to have my friend Jaime Jo Wright with me today. Welcome back, Jaime.
Hi, Ruth. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, of course. We're always thrilled to hear about your upcoming books. And today we're going to be talking about The Bell Tolls at Traeger Hall. Congratulate you for your Book of the Year Selah Award for Spectres in the Glass House.
Thank you. That was a big surprise. I was not expecting that. I got a text message from Lynette Eason going, "Oh, look at you." And I'm like, "Look at me, what?" I'm in my sweats and I was gardening. What?
That is so fantastic. I was so thrilled for you when I saw that. And then you're a Christie finalist for Night Falls on Predicament Avenue. Congratulations.
Thank you. That one was also a surprise. So it's funny, the books that final or the books that win awards, and I don't know. It's always a blessing. I love it.
Yeah, it must be such a nice pat on the back for all that hard work, from the industry and your peers, right?
It's validating. It makes you feel like you're not necessarily the fraud that every writer feels they are.
You struggle with imposter syndrome, no way.
Every time I submit a book to my editor too, I'm usually like, well, here's my career-ending novel. I know it's horrible.
Oh, stop. That's too funny. Well, what have you been up to this fall? Writing like crazy, turning in books to love-inspired suspense, or?
Yes, I've been turning in books to love-inspired suspense. I just turned in a novel to Bethany House that will actually come out October of 2026.
Okay.
And I am working on a new novel that I'm going to be putting out hopefully in February. This is going to be a self-published novel that I'm working with my daughter on, and we'll see how this goes. But it's definitely out of my normal creepy suspense. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, what's the genre?
The genre is going to be YA rom-com.
A rom-com?
Yes.
Wow.
Now,
if
that doesn't make everyone laugh, trust me, it's making me laugh. My daughter's been begging me to write one. She said there's not enough clean rom-com fiction out there for teenagers. So she is helping me write it. It's going to be co-authored, and we're just going to have fun with it and put it out there for the few people that might be interested.
Yeah, you may as well. I mean,
Yeah,
give it a
right.
shot, right? You
It's a
could
fun
start
thing to
it.
do with my daughter. It
Yes,
really is.
exactly.
It
It's
really
a
is.
relationship builder and you're
Yes.
creating memories forever.
Yes,
But I
absolutely.
think I think that's important to know that that age group, she's asking for that genre for that age group. So,
There is a big growing movement of girls that are teenagers on Instagram, specifically, and TikTok that are searching out clean YA rom-coms and romances. And not
okay.
necessarily Christian, but
Mhm.
just clean, sweet romances that's kind of the good old 1990s, teen chick flicks that we used to watch when we were in high school.
Yeah. Okay.
They kind of want to go back to those days, and there's not a lot of that without it being really raunchy. So I'm not known for romance, but we'll give it a try. I have enough
It'd be
enough
fun.
sarcasm in me, so
Yeah, there you go. So it'll kind of have that
right. Yeah.
Gilmore Girls feel before smartphones hit, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
just kind of
Good to
that
know.
that good feeling. So we'll see how it
Yeah.
goes. It'll be kind
Okay.
of fun, and I'll
Good to
draw on
know.
my 20 some years of youth ministry. So
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. I might have to
yeah,
give that a shot in the not next year, but the year after.
yeah. There you go. There you
Why
go.
not, right? Okay.
Hmm.
Well, let's talk about this amazing book, The Bell Tolls at Traeger Hall. Tell us about this dual timeline and what was your inspiration for this story?
Well, The Bell Tolls of Traeger Hall is one that I've wanted to write for a while, especially after I listened to a podcast that was featuring the story of a cold case that took place in the late 19th century in England. It was actually in Cheshire, England. And it was a story of George Harry Stores, and he essentially was kind of like a land baron. He owned a lot in that region, in that town area. And he started being very, very vocal about the fact that he was going to be murdered.
Hmm.
And a lot of people thought he was a little bit loony, especially when he built a bell tower to go on his house. And he told the local authorities that if you hear the bell ringing, um, come right now. I'm probably in the process of being murdered.
Oh,
And shortly thereafter, that is exactly what happened. And they found him in his house, and his wife had survived, but she had rung the bell, and he had been stabbed multiple times, and no one was ever able to identify, or nor was anyone ever caught for the murder. And I thought, you know what? That sounds like a good base to inspire a Jaime Jo Wright novel.
sure. And it's set in 1890, so that kind of gives it that gothic
Yes.
kind of feel. All
Yes.
right. So tell us about the characters and everything.
Oh, yeah, sure. So in 1890, we have Waverly Pembroke, and she is basically the ward of her aunt and her uncle. Her aunt is her direct ancestor, or guardian, and her aunt obviously being married at the time, that all transfers to the man. So she had married Leopold Traeger, who is a wealthy landowner. He pretty much owns sawmills and logging mills and all this such stuff. And the story opens where Waverly has already been given the task to sit vigil at her aunt and uncle's wake because they have just been murdered.
Mm.
And so in Traeger Hall, which is where they live, there is a bell tower, and the bell tolled, and it was right before her aunt and uncle were murdered, and nobody knows what happened. Waverly came on the scene. She had been in town, and now she is sitting vigil like they did in the old-fashioned days, where you sit
Mm.
sit round the clock by the body of the deceased loved one, just to make sure they're actually dead. But her uncle has an interesting will, and his will is he wants her to stand vigil by his body, if he's murdered, which he was. He wants her to stand vigil there for more than a week. because he wants to really make sure he's gone. And that causes some issues. So we have the local undertaker who has to kind of help with this process. And in the meantime, she also finds out in the will that the Traeger Hall was not left to her as she expected. And on the confirmation of Leopold Traeger's death, once his body is interned, Traeger Hall is to be sealed and not to be opened until a century has passed. And
Wow.
she has to leave, and the house has to be sealed. And everybody's like, how do you even seal a house for a century? And of course, now we jump forward in the other dual timeline to the present day where I have Jenny who comes to town. Her uncle had bought this historic location, or sorry, her father had bought this historic location, and it's now come to her, and she has to decide what to do because all of a sudden they can open it up. And there's this crypt of an old house that nobody has been inside since the day it was closed in 1890. And there's a whole mystery, obviously, that happens, especially when she discovers more murder on the property.
Oh no.
That was
Okay.
not a short summary.
No,
Never
but I
ask
like
it,
it.
never ask an author like to summarize their book because we're all like, I don't know how to do that.
I'm going to tell you
I
everything.
know. And here's how the book ends. No.
No, but I like that though, because it has two timelines. We need to know what's happening in both. And so,
Yeah.
does it start off in the present day or will it start off in the 1890s?
It starts off right away in the 1890s.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
actually, if I'm really specific, it starts off with a first person insert at the beginning of the book told from Waverly's viewpoint when she's an old woman.
Mhm.
And she's telling the reader about what happened. And a little bit like if you ever watched the movie Ever After
Mhm.
with Drew Barrymore, it starts out with Cinderella being old and she starts telling the story of what happened in
Okay.
her youth. And so that's kind of the perspective that is scattered throughout the book. You get Waverly young, you get Waverly old, and then you get Jenny in the current day.
Okay, gotcha. And what were some of the challenges though to writing Jenny in the current day and then going back to the 1890s?
Yeah. Well, one big challenge was trying to figure out how to justify the fact that nobody had ever opened a house since 1890. Um, I was like, how is that even realistic in this day and age? That because the will would have eventually not, it wouldn't have. I checked into the laws and it would have expired essentially,
Hmm.
especially as the house passed ownership. So I was really challenged to look into the legal implications of wills that were written in the 19th century and how long, if a will, has a date that's well into the future, how long is that honored if the
Hmm.
house passes through multiple ownerships, etc. So that was really challenging. And I think my editor and I figured at least a believable workaround. Um, but
Okay.
as far as the hopping between each time period, I actually really love that, and I don't find that very difficult in the writing process. It's just trying to make everything work and make sense.
Hmm.
That's the more difficult part.
Yeah, so the reader doesn't get confused. I could see where that could be a
Right,
challenge, right?
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And so I don't get confused.
Yeah. So in your research, did you find that some of these wills demanded that people stand watch over their bodies? I mean, was that a thing back then?
It was a thing, and the only reason it was in the will specifically for this story is because Leopold Traeger, who is the murder victim, wanted a much longer vigil than was normal. But traditionally, it was very standard for family members to have a 24/7 vigil around the body for up to about 4 days. That's why you have funeral parlors. That's why
Hmm.
we call them parlors, because the body was usually in the family home for that amount of time, and people would watch. Because back in those days, I mean, they could check for a pulse, but nobody wanted. I mean, there were actually stories, and I did find them of people who were buried alive
Yeah.
because
Ooh,
they weren't dead. They had fallen into a deep coma, and that's why you have
wow.
stories of like you hear people who were buried with bells tied to their toes so they could move their feet and the bell would be above ground and you could hear a bell ringing in the cemetery. Little things
There's
like
a
that.
story. Yeah, there's a creepy story that you
Right,
can write.
right. That's a different type of bell tolling, but yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah,
crazy.
they would hold the vigils for quite a long time. And it started to, as modern medicine came in and people became more and more certain they could tell if someone was actually deceased or not, the wakes became shorter. But that's also why it's called a wake, because you didn't sleep. You stayed awake
Hmm.
to stand vigil by the loved one's body to make sure that they were actually deceased.
Okay. I thought it was just an excuse to have a party while the dead person, lays there and the living have a party.
Right? No, no,
Well,
they were
I
actually, they
swear
wanted to make sure they didn't bury grandma
I
alive.
learned so many things by having these podcast episodes, so many intriguing little facts.
I'm sure
Now
this was on
that,
everyone's wish list to know.
yeah, right? Oh,
And crime scenes were you could do tours of them. So like back in those days, like in the Nightfalls in Predicament Avenue,
mhm,
which we were talking about earlier, that final for Christie this year, I talk about that because people it became like a sightseeing thing. You'd hear of a crime, and all the neighbors would come. Some of them would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna come help clean it up," but it was all just a big, version.
mhm.
It was a hometown version of the Coliseum. Like they wanted to see the crime scene, and there was no such thing as forensics back then.
Wow. And they would
So,
probably take things away with them, right?
oh, yeah,
Yes,
people would
yeah.
take souvenirs.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And even
it's
modern
wild.
time when the BTK killer's daughter,
Hmm.
they did a
Hmm.
documentary on her, and she said they had to completely raise the house that she
Yeah.
grew up in, even
Yep.
though no crimes were committed there. They still had to raise it, she said, because people were stealing things
Yeah.
from the house to sell it on eBay.
There
So,
is a weird fascination, and I get asked this just
mhm,
because of what I write, but there is a weird fascination with the macabre.
mhm,
And, we've even noticed that in a small way just on vacations as a family. When you're driving on the interstate and all of a sudden the traffic's at a standstill
mm,
and you realize there's been an accident, but if everybody just kept going the speed limit in the furthest lane over, it would be fine and traffic would keep moving reasonably, but everybody has to slow down because they want to see
mm,
what happened, right?
mhm.
Like, what happened here? It's like, oh, they hit a pigeon and they blew a tire. It's okay.
Yeah, keep going.
Right, just keep going. It's,
But
but
it's
there's
true. There is this strange fascination.
it
I mean,
is.
the magician's Penn and Teller.
Mm-hmm.
Penn has a house and it's filled with all of those little things that he purchased
Yeah,
from crime scenes and like things that Ted Bundy owned and
right.
John Wayne Gacy's paintings. He has a house filled with all of these things. And I'm
Ugh,
thinking, okay,
no.
that's just too creepy.
Yeah, I
But you're
think I
right.
would draw the line there. I mean, there is
Yeah.
definitely a part of me that's interested in crime from the standpoint of I think if I was in a different career and I was just starting out my life again, I would probably go into forensic psychology
Yeah.
because it's extremely interesting to me what makes a killer tick
A
and to
person do
be
it. Yeah.
part of the justice of solving that crime. But I don't like the glorifying of it. Like I wouldn't want to
No.
hang Ted Bundy's tie on my wall. Like,
No.
no,
I
no,
wouldn't want anything from his house or
no, I wouldn't
anything
either.
that John Wayne
No,
Gacy painted, right?
no, 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 no.
I'm right along there with you. And I think that's why I like writing suspense because I used to work in the criminal courthouse and
Right.
I saw a few lectures from
Mm-hmm.
criminal forensic psychiatrists and listened to them talk about the interviews they had with serial
Sure.
killers and people on
Yeah,
death row. And it was fascinating how the mind, how
it is.
something in their childhood, the trauma, and I've talked with other authors of suspense thrillers
Hmm.
too, how something in childhood trauma caused them to be this horrific. There it never
Right.
just happened. So when I'm
No.
talking with authors and we're brainstorming our stories, I always ask them the why. Why is your killer doing this? Well, he's just a horrible person. But why is he a horrible person?
Hmm.
And if they can't answer that question, we have to brainstorm some more because I always tell them there was a cause. There has to be
Right.
a cause. Ted
Right.
Bundy wasn't just born serial killer and he said it himself that
Hmm.
that's some horrible things happened to him. So you're right. I mean, it's just so intriguing to see
Yeah.
what happens when childhood trauma is never treated, when it's never
Right.
dealt with, these
Right.
horrific things happen. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's really a thread that goes through the Bell Tolls of Traeger
Yeah, I
Hall.
was going to ask you, what are some of the themes, some of the messages that readers will
Yeah.
take away?
Yeah, and I think that's one thing with my books a lot of readers don't understand. If they haven't read my books, they're not just gothic mysteries or creepy killing stories with ghostly elements. They're also, I usually have a pretty strong theme that
Hmm.
stretches through the novel. And in this one, Jenny is coming from a really hard childhood of abuse. And I don't go into detail about what the abuses were, but you can kind of put two and two together as you're reading as a reader and realize Jenny has been traumatized growing up. And so Traeger Hall, which she inherits, and this is this locked up building with all these dark rooms and secrets and, ghosts and haunting type things, it's really a parallel to who she is. And she becomes very drawn to this house because it's like herself, like she's locked herself up with all her secrets and all the things that are broken inside of her. And to open up the vault is to open up yourself to a lot of vulnerability, and it's frightening to do. And so there's a huge parallel between Jenny and the story of Traeger Hall as it relates to its past, and the people who lived there and the hurts and the abuses that they administered to people, and how now, well over a century later, she has to unlock that while she's having to unlock her own. And yeah, it's a legacy that's pretty haunting.
You know how to create those metaphors and connect your characters to them. Ah, that's fascinating. I love that. Well, The Bell Tolls at Traeger Hall is out in the world right now. So head over
Yes.
to Amazon and get your copy. And perfect timing for this spooky fall weather that you're
Yeah.
having out there, where it's chilly and cold and gray days. Not like Phoenix, though, where it's sunny and warm all the time. But so readers can snuggle up to their fireplace with a warm cup of cocoa and enjoy this gothic suspense novel set in a small town with this incredible mystery and legend that only Jaime Jo Wright can create. So thank you, Jaime, for taking time out of your busy writing schedule to chat with us about your amazing stories. And best of luck at the Christie Awards. We'll be waiting to see if your book wins. Woohoo!
I hope so. I hope so. I love doing my publisher, Bethany House Publisher, proud. So I hope I can continue to do that. But I'm up against some unbelievable authors and books. So I will be happy no matter what the outcome is, because they're all friends.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. And they're incredible stories.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, friend. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Ruth.
Oh, wasn't that fun listening to Jaime Jo Wright, one of the most prolific authors I know, and award-winning author and best-selling author. I love talking to her about her stories because they're so unique, so original, and so creepy. So this one sounds amazing. The Bell Tolls at Traeger Hall. So go get your copy today and leave her a review. She'd love to know what you think of this amazing dual-time novel, a gothic suspense. And I hope that you've been encouraged by Jaime and how she takes her stories so seriously and how she gleans ideas from true cold cases. That's what I like to do too. So be encouraged to find those stories wherever you can and keep writing. Don't let research or any challenges of the genre keep you from doing what you love to do. And until next time, thanks so much for listening. God bless.